Hey guys, I want to talk a little bit today about this tool cart from Mac Tools that I got probably about 8-9 months ago. It's a really awesome tool cart. There's a few things about it that I really hate, and then there's a few things about it that I really like. So first off, let's start with the things that I really like. I really like the fact that, different than a lot of tool carts, the top opens sideways. So if you're under a car or anywhere, you don't have to, and you have your top part open, you don't have to worry about the lid sticking up right here in the back. I don't know, some people don't care about that. To me, it's annoying. So I really like the fact that the lid opens sideways. Now these things do open up upwards, but what I've used these for in a shop is mostly things that I don't need that much. Like, say, extra pens and extra crap, just stuff that I don't need a whole lot. Because what happens typically when you're working, you're going to have this open, say, halfway like this, and you're going to have the tools that you're using at the time like stacked up here, or something like that. You have your bolt tray or whatever, and because if you're trying to access something under here, you've got to push everything off. And if you're in the middle of a big job, having to push everything off and access something under here is kind of a pain in the ass. So normally, I've got this one at home now, but normally when I use this in the shop, I didn't keep wrenches or anything like that up here. It was just extra stuff. Like for a while, I didn't even have anything on this side. Like, I just kept it empty, or maybe I kept my work orders in there or something like that. But for the most part, I just left it just basically empty, so that I didn't need to access things in the middle of a big job and then get pissed off because my cart was covered in tools and I couldn't get to it. So I do like the fact that it has these. In a shop environment, I don't fill these things up. At home, I fill it up because it's a lot different. Now, the reason I brought this home is because I have a lot of tools at home, and this thing is not very mobile. It's a mobile roll-around cart, but this thing is freaking heavy, and the way it rolls isn't very smooth, so it's kind of hard to steer it. And if you got this thing loaded up with tools, this thing is freaking ridiculous heavy. Like, even when it's not in tools, like trying to load it up in the back of your truck, like when I had to bring it home or move it to a different shop, this thing is difficult to get in the back of a truck or even an SUV, because it's just so heavy, even empty, ridiculous heavy. So rolling around the shop full of tools is just kind of a pain in the ass. So that's kind of one of the main reasons why I brought it home. Is it's just not mobile enough. If you're working in a shop and you have your own bay and you're not having to move around a bunch, then this cart could be good, because you can load it up with shit. And if your toolbox is overflowing and you need a whole nother toolbox for tools that you use a lot, then this would be ideal. This cart runs about $1,000. I traded in my Snap-on Rollaround for this one and actually got it for $450. So it's a killer deal for a cart this size. So moving on with things that I like about it. I like how much space it has. So in the top here, you've got your screwdriver holders. On this side, you got your pry bar holders, but it won't hold really big pry bars. Like the Snap-on pry bar that I have, it'll fit, but it's a super tight fit, and when you go to pull it out, it pops these little black plastic things out, or it just kind of deforms them. And on top of that, when you're working and you've got this thing, say like this, and you've got tools everywhere, or say you're up against, like, close to a wall, I mean, you got to have a good, foot and a half to roll this thing out just to get to your pry bar. So after a couple weeks of that, I just pulled the pry bars out, stuck them down there on the bottom. Works great. Moving on, the space. This is how wide the drawer opens. This is how much crap that you can fit in the smallest drawer. So, it's being this the lowest profile of the drawers, I use it for pliers and things that I don't use a whole lot. Since I brought it home, I have moved my impact swivel sockets up here because I don't use them that much anymore because I don't have a compressor at home. So those just kind of sit there. But you know, little pry tools and screwdrivers and pliers, I mean, you can load this thing up. And the only thing about this drawer is obviously if you load it up a little bit too much, things will start catching and the drawer won't open. The next drawer is slightly taller, and it is tall enough to fit the full-size half-inch impact in, plus some pretty good size hammers. So this drawer I've been keeping my air tools, which also I'm not using that much at home, so I don't have an air compressor right now. But you can see it's pretty loaded up with anything you would need on a daily basis at work. This is my favorite drawer. The third one is super deep and heavy. This one will topple the cart. Another reason I don't like it is because this is your deepest drawer. If you've got this thing loaded up, and especially if you have it loaded up more towards the front of the drawer, and say the wheels aren't turned right. See, right now I have these wheels kind of turned outward slightly. A while back at home on concrete, this isn't concrete, but I had it in my barn, and these wheels were turned in. I had this drawer open, I don't know what I was doing. When I was standing next to it, I had this drawer open, I believe, and the whole thing just toppled over on my leg. So I was pretty upset, pissed off. It didn't break it, but it definitely bruised the bone, and at that point I was like ready to sell this thing, just because that's scary. You know, it could have broke my leg, and it's not, yeah, it's loaded up, but you know, I wasn't like moving it around or anything. It was just sitting there. I had a drawer open and it fell over. It had the same amount of tools that I have in it right now, and it fell over. So that's one of the things I don't like about it, is just that, you know, that's kind of scary. This thing is really heavy, you know, versus a normal roll-around cart. This thing probably weighs at least twice what my old Snap-on cart weighed, and it's not that much bigger than my old Snap-on cart, but it is a lot heavier duty, and it, you know, these things up here add a lot of weight. You know, it's several inches deeper and longer and wider and whatnot than your average roll-around cart. This thing is huge. Anyway, but as you can see, what I did like about it is how much space, and that's one of the reasons why I bought this, because it had a lot more space, and the fact that the lids open sideways. So as you can see, it holds a shitload. So this would probably be way more loaded up than you would have it at work, because a lot of this stuff, like, you don't use, you know, 36mm sockets every single day, you know, 3 times a day. Like, so this and a lot of these are all standard sizes, which I pretty much never use unless I get like an old Chevy or Dodge or something. Those just kind of sit there and collect dust. So most of this stuff in this drawer you could just pull out. If you're at work, it would be in your main box. You wouldn't worry about it, you know. But I like the height, or the depth, or whatever you want to call it. How tall this drawer is, I like that, because you can put your deep impact sockets in it and close the drawer. And that's pretty awesome. But it's got plenty of room for everything, more than you really need if you're using it at work. And then as far as the bottom goes, it's got plenty of room down here as well. I've got my my big pressure testing kit down here on the bottom, and as you can see, it's still got several inches to spare. Plenty of room down there. It does have locks on 2 of the wheels, so that's good, I guess, but it really is not going to do any good if it topples over. So, and because there's another thing I want to add in, because this cart is so big, if you're not used to a cart this big, you might kind of misjudge where it's at when you're low in a car. I had this thing for about 2 weeks. I had this drawer open, and I had it behind, like close to the wall in the shop. And this thing's a lot bigger than I'm used to. Like, with this drawer open, it's probably a good, I would say, 8 inches longer with this drawer open than my old cart was. So if you're not really paying attention and you start lowering a car down, it could catch this. And that's why I have these these dents and like all this shit's all jacked up because this drawer was open. I was lowering the car and of course it hit it, dumped the whole thing over. So you kind of got to get used to the size if you've never had a Rollaround this big. In summary, if you don't need to move your cart around that much, if you have your own bay and you just need a ton of space, get this cart. It's badass. I really like it for what it is. I like it better at home, my personal opinion. At work, you know, I like a small, lightweight, easy to roll around cart because I've never had my own bay. So moving around from place to place with a cart this size is just a pain in the ass. It doesn't steer well, it's heavy. If you have it loaded up, it's even worse. So that's my opinion. I like the space. It's plenty of space. The price is good for what it is, and if you're trading in a cart, your Mac guy can work you a hell of a deal, or at least mine did. You know, $450, considering my Snap-on cart was about $900 after tax, and I was like, oh, I need more space, and then I got a brand new cart for $450. You know, after having the Snap-on cart for 2 years, I feel I got my money's worth out of it, so I think it was a good deal. So I like this workspace. This is really good, in which normal carts with the lid that goes up, you don't have any flat space here. So easy to write out your work orders. You can even, like one guy had one of these and he rolled this out, put a chair right there, and he ate lunch on it. Like that's where he ate lunch every day, right here on his cart. So that's pretty cool that you can do that, especially if you're in a small shop and there's just too many people or there's no good workbenches that are clean. You can eat right there on your cart. Fill out work orders, put your laptop right there, your tablet, your phone, your cigarettes, your soda. Be careful though if you put your soda right here, because I dumped over so many sodas inside my cart because I would forget that it'd be right there. I would close this drawer and then boom, soda's over. Sticky, nasty gunk everywhere. But that's just me. You know, that's not really a downside of the cart. That's just, you know, you get in the middle of a big job and you forget where stuff is, and you know, you're not paying attention, and then boom, it's done. Not crazy about that being right there. For pry bars, to me it's useless unless it's a pry bar that you very rarely use. My big pry bar I use every day, I can't put it in there because it's too much of a pain in the ass to get it out. Screwdrivers, I never even use those. You know, I almost always use my impact driver, or I have this really cool ratcheting gear wrench screwdriver. Well, there's the set. I always use the stubby one. I don't see it now. Maybe inside. But either way, I always use that if I have to, or I use my impact driver. Very rarely do I ever even need an actual screwdriver. So, which is why these are all cheap, because they're just there for, I don't know, they're just there because I've had them so long and I can't justify throwing them away. So that's fine for me. The pry bar situation, not so great, but this thing is big enough you can fit a full-size pry bar down there without it sticking out. So it works. The space, awesome. The locking is cool. It's got a lock thing right there. So you'll just switch this over to lock. You'll close the lid, and then you'll use your key to lock it right there. It locks all the drawers, so anything that's not in that bottom tray will be secure. So if you actually work in a place where you don't trust your coworkers, then this is pretty cool, because basically almost all your good stuff is going to be locked up. Luckily, I've never worked in a place where I didn't trust the people that, you know, or, well, I wouldn't say that, but I would say that I didn't have to worry about them stealing things. Just to overview again on how much space this thing actually has, I have a full set of ratcheting wrenches, stubby ratcheting wrenches, Torx, external Torx wrenches, line wrenches, some baby wrenches, all in that one little section. Junk, tons of it. You know, the only obstacle here is that you have to keep these spaces by the little hinges. You have to keep those kind of clear, because it won't allow this lid to close properly if those things are blocked. So just kind of keep a little space there, you know, for just for that. So the top, ton of space. You know, you could use this for just your tools that you're working with on a job. I have this filled up because it's at home and it doesn't matter. But at work, you can keep this whole thing clear and just use, you know, whatever tools you're using for that job. Boom, just throw them right there. Easy access. You know, plenty of space. The deepest drawer, again, super deep. So all in all, I would recommend this cart if you don't have to move around a bunch and you got a lot of shit, or I would recommend it for home use. You know, if you're going to spend that much money on a home use toolbox, this thing holds a lot. For the average mechanic at home, this will probably have more space than you actually need. So, and for big ass tools, you wouldn't put those in a cart anyway. You would put them on a shelf or something. So, yeah, I would personally would recommend this for home use, or for if you're in a shop that you don't have to move around a lot. That's my opinion, my recommendation. If you are thinking about buying this cart, my tool guy actually assembled this thing before he sold it to me. I ordered it, he brought it to me, he had already assembled it, which was cool, I thought. But the problem with that is when you're reading the instructions on how to assemble this thing, it specifically says put all the bolts in. It's got bolts here, there, on both sides. The handles are separate. It specifically says put all the bolts in before you tighten one bolt. Well, I don't think he did it, because what happened is it actually torqued. It actually twisted this cart in such a way that I was never able to put this handle on this side, because as you can see, now these holes don't line up. That one's the worst one, I think. Yeah, these two are really bad. So I would suggest, if you're going to order it, tell the tool guy, don't put it together, just let me put it together. And if you care about having handles on both sides. I was able to get this handle on, but it was tough. Like, it was twisted on that side too. So what's happening, as you could probably notice on this side, is that there's two layers. You got the outside layer there, and then you got the inside layer. So what happens when you're tighten one side, it torques this whole thing in such a way that the inside doesn't line up with the outside. Bolts won't go in. You're not going to be able to put your handle here without loosening everything and trying to maneuver it in such a way that it'll work. So yeah, just my recommendation there. If you're buying one new, just tell your tool guy, don't put it together. Some tool guys won't do that anyway. They'll just be like, fuck it, and you know, you do it, you're on your own. My tool guy's really cool, and we have a good working relationship. So he, I guess, was being nice and decided to put it together for me, which I thought was cool in the beginning, until I tried to put the handles on, and then I was kind of pissed off. So that handle, now especially since at home, I'll never put that handle on ever. It's not worth it. This thing doesn't even move now anyway. It just sits here. So anyway, that's my opinion. Thanks for watching.